Okay, Meena, is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm proceeding. Okay?
Sure, sure. Sure, ma'am.
Okay. There's a problem which may touch. That's the problem. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
ma'am. No issue.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
clear the
So sorry for the inconvenience. And so this will be the outline of my talk today. And the three big buzzwords today is big data, data science, and data analytics. And I'll just be touching briefly on these. And for most of us, there is some confusion between this data science and data analytics. We need to remember that data science is an umbrella term which covers a lot of disciplines, and data analytics is just combined or is a part of this, which deals with the various functionalities which you need for analytics. So it can be very confusing at times, but while they're not completely different, they are interconnected and they're just different approaches to problems. So the main goal of a data science professional is to ask questions and just locate the potential avenues of studies. And it covers a wide area of disciplines from statistics, machine learning, mathematics, problem solving, and so on. While data analytics concentrates on creating methods or using methods to derive insights using a variety of techniques. And interconnecting these two is big data, because you need data, you need lots of data in order to gain insights. So while the differences are very subtle, it is sometimes very confusing between the two, especially data science and data analytics. So we can actually, instead of differentiating between them, we need to see that we need the right mix of both data science and data analytics if you want to derive something important. If you want to have actionable insights, we need a mix of both along with the big data. So these are some comparisons which I have put. The scope of data science is at a macro level, while data analytics is more at a micro level. And the exploration, if you see, it is not specific. It goes through massive data sets, and the analytics is more focused that way. And yes, both of them use big data. So having just differentiated or explained the terms, now I would just like to go to big data. So big data is what mainly characterized by a huge volume. And it is different from traditional data because you need different mechanisms for storage and processing, and you need specialized algorithms to analyze this data. So there again, these are three broad avenues: storage of big data, processing, and analyzing. You have specific hardware, you need special infrastructure to store and process such data sets. And coming to the analysis part, that's where all your statistics, machine learning, and all that comes into play. So if you look at the history and evolution of big data, it began way back in 1970, and the first phase, which spans from 1970 to 2000, is the phase which witnessed a lot of DBMS-based structure content, your RDBMS, your data warehouses, etc. And the operations there were mainly OLAP operations, and some amount of data mining and statistical analysis also was done. This led to the second phase, 2001 to 2010, when the content was mainly unstructured. And here the operations like information retrieval, extraction, again opinion mining, web analytics, and all these things, social media analytics, all these became the buzzwords. The third phase is what you're witnessing now. And it is the phase where data explosion is at its largest here. So now we have all mobile and sensor-based content, and a lot of applications and technologies which support these have come into play. So I've listed some of these here. So if broadly, if you look, all types of data, structured, unstructured, semi-structured data, all these constitute big data, and it is characterized by the 5 Vs. Now this 5V definition again has grown. It started with 3 Vs, went on to 5 Vs, and now you even have 10 Vs being quoted. But importantly, these are the 5 Vs which characterize data. The volume, data size is now in terms of petabytes and yottabytes, and velocities, that is, the data comes at a continuous change. The speed with which it varies is also different. You have variety of data from different sources. Every click of yours is generating data. Okay? So, and again, the uncertainty, data which comes in is not the same as what is going to come the next minute. It's going to be very uncertain. What is the type of data that you're going to get? So big data is largely characterized by these 5 Vs. And the 5th V actually is value, which comes in once you analyze and process data. The value that you get out of data is the 5th V. So big data is mainly characterized by these, and it is the conjunction between your data science and your data analytics. So these are some of the applications. Again, you cannot strictly classify applications as belonging to data science, big data, or data analytics, but some broad differentiation is available, which I have listed here. So coming to data analytics, it is widely being used in healthcare, travel, gaming, energy management, and these are just a few application areas. There are lots and lots of applications of these analytics. So now we look at data analytics along with some use cases. So we have divided a few cases here, and we'll explore some of these areas. It is in the area of risk management. It's being widely used. It is also being used for product development and innovations. Customer experience, improving the customer experience, especially for these e-commerce websites, is a good avenue for applying analytics, and it's being applied here. And it is also used by many organizations to improve their decision making. So coming to the insurance sector, here data analytics is used to improve the claim process. So the quality of the relationship between the customer and the insurers is very important. And this customer retention, everything comes under this category. So insurance companies are continually monitoring their data and analyzing their data to see how best they can keep the customer satisfied. The second aspect is with regard to the insurance premiums. Again, insurance agencies are also have profit making as one of their objectives. So what they do, they need to make sure that they earn more through premiums rather than losing out on claims. So again, using data, the past data, they try to analyze which sort of customers or through which scenario they could lose out on claims and try to carefully avoid or increase their premiums on such issues. Also, data analytics is used in improving the reporting, and another area is to forecast and make decisions. So you use your past experience and data to make better decisions. So in all these areas, insurance and banking companies, they make use of data analytics. Next is the product innovation. You must have all heard of Rolls-Royce, which makes some of the best cars. Okay, so this company also makes airplane engines. And here they use data analytics. They use large amounts of data, and on a trial basis, they try to find out which data points brought into the manufacturing process can improve the quality of the engines. So here, data analytics is widely used to bring out new innovations in their engine design. The next area where you could use data analytics is decision making. So if you take Starbucks uses big data analytics for decision making again, and they have widely used it to see or decide on their new locations. So when an organization tries to choose a location or a new branch or a new outlet, they make use of various data. And they analyze the data based on the population demographics, the accessibility of the locations, the parking adequacy, and so on. Okay, so it's very important that the right location results in the right footfall, and for this they make use of various data, and large amounts of data is involved in the analytic process. Next is the area of customer experience. So this Delta Airline is an American-based company. They widely use data analytics to retain their customers. Now, the airline industry is a very competitive one, right? And it's very important that customers remain satisfied. So what they do is they monitor tweets to find out the customer's experience regarding their journey, the delays or any other eventualities that may occur. And this airline is very quick to identify negative tweets. So what it does, once it identifies a negative tweet, it goes ahead and tries to build up the relationship with the customer by either adding some points so that he doesn't refrain from using the airline on his next journey. So they come out with a lot of freebies and things like that so that customer retention is possible. So these are some of the use cases which we saw at just the face value of data analytics, how organizations have been using it. Next, we come to the life cycle. So when you use data for analysis, it is not available readily. You need to go into a specific methodology. You need to adopt various mechanisms in order to locate and use the data. So this life cycle actually begins with the business case evaluation. You need to identify what is your objective. Why do you want to use analytics? Okay, so you may have several objectives or goals based on which you want to improvise, and so you may wish to use analytics. So this business case evaluation is just a justification to see the need for analytics. And once that is done, you go on to the next phase, which is identification of data. Now, identification of data, again, your data is huge. So data, as I told you, we are drowning in data. So this is a very important phase. What data you need to use for that application, right? And this data could be from different sources. So you identify all these sources from where your data has to come in. And then this data is not readily usable. So you need to filter out. You may have corrupt data, you may have noise, you may have a lot of missing values, etc. So you do a pre-processing to filter out whatever is needed, followed by the extraction. Now in data extraction, you will be only taking the data that is relevant. You may not require for a particular application or for a particular problem at hand, you may not require all the data. So what data is really important? From where do you want it? You extract that data. You may also have to transform this data. For example, a particular company may be storing data in a particular, using a particular standardized format. So for example, weight may be stored somewhere, the unit may be kg, somewhere else it may be pound. So you may wish to transform it also. So all this comes under this phase. And then you may wish to aggregate this data to form new data types. You may wish to aggregate from different sources, different locations, or you may wish to aggregate several data items to form a new data item again. And then finally, you come to the data analysis. So this is where your actual machine learning, etc., comes into implementation. So depending on what you want to do, you may run a predictive algorithm, you may do some clustering, classification, etc. All this is done by the core, this is the core data analysis part, which is done by all your statistics, machine learning, etc. And then presenting this, unless it is presented in the form which is comprehensible, it is of no use again. So you gain some insights and then you try to put it in a form which is suitable for visualization. So this visualization is just packaging your data so it is easily remembered and projected. And then you use it for your action. Then it becomes an actionable insight. So that's your last phase. So this constitutes the entire phase or life cycle of big data analytics. Now coming to the types, I have listed the types along with the questions which each type tries to answer. So if you look at descriptive analytics, it looks at what has happened. Diagnostic analytics, the question is, why did it happen? Predictive analytics again is what will happen. And finally, prescriptive analytics, what is the solution? Right? So each type of analytics attempts to answer a particular type of question. So we look at each of this one by one. So if you look at descriptive analytics, it is just summarizing your data into a form which is interpretable. So I had the sales or figures or the revenue figures for several years. Descriptive analytics will just attempt at creating reports based on this data. I may wish to summarize and describe how my profit has increased over the years, or what is the revenue drop over several years, right? So this is an example of descriptive analysis, and you may use this on social media metrics using Facebook likes. You may wish to see the number of likes which come in for a particular post, for a particular endorsement, etc. Next is the types of big data analytics. So this actually tries to answer the question, why did it happen? So here, diagnostic analysis is done to understand or look into the root cause of a problem. Something goes wrong somewhere, okay? Take a small example. Your vehicle doesn't start, you immediately try to diagnose what is wrong, what is the fault, what is indicated on the dashboard, and so on. So this analytics is characterized by techniques such as drill down. You try to drill deeper down to find out the cause, and they try to gain insight into to see why a particular problem occurred and what can be done in order to overcome that or avoid that. So if you're performing a diagnostic analysis in order to see why the sales of a particular product dropped in a particular month, you may wish to go into various aspects. You may try to examine the reasons. What was the reach to the customers during that particular month? Or was the pricing a little bit high during that particular month? So you try to dig down deeper and deeper and try to diagnose the fault, to see why it has occurred. So that is diagnostic analysis. Why did it happen? The next type of analysis, again in diagnostic analysis, we have a small case study. So if an e-commerce company's report shows that sales have reduced, and say the reason is people go up to the part when they are going to make the payment, and then if they abandon their purchase, then a lot of things could have gone wrong. Maybe the form didn't load correctly, the shipping fee was too high, not enough payment options available. So explore each of these and see how it can be overcome. Next is predictive analytics. So predictive analytics takes a look at the past data and tries to make a prediction. Looks into historical and present data to make predictions of the future. So here we use a lot of AI and machine learning because you have to analyze lots of data, current data, to make predictions. And it is widely used to predict customer trends, market trends, etc. Okay? And in predictive analytics, again, one of the best examples of is that of PayPal, which makes wide use of analytics in order to protect themselves from fraudulent transactions. So as far as PayPal does, what it does is, in the area of fraudulent detection, if a client is recognized as a trustworthy or dependable client, the transactions which he makes are executed and at a very fast speed. Whereas if it recognizes that there is something wrong with a particular client, it could be a fraudulent transaction, then the system deliberately slows down to garner all the data it can about that customer using various data points, his past history, the latest transactions which he has made, etc. And it tries to slow down the process. So here a lot of analytical algorithms, machine learning algorithms go analyze thousands and thousands of data points, and then they're able to prevent that fraudulent transaction from taking place. So So there's one very good example of data analytics being used in the area of detecting fraudulent transactions. There are many such avenues, and basically the predictive analytics model is you use historical data to build the model, and then when new data comes in, you fit it into the model to make predictions. And one of the very simplest techniques which forms the backbone of predictive analytics is your linear regression in statistics, where you try to predict something. We try to predict a response variable based on two or more dependent variables. So some of the use case scenarios for predictive analytics are you can identify customers who are likely to abandon a service or a product. See, sometimes you may have gone halfway through your online shopping and you do not complete the transaction. You immediately get a reminder saying that this product is still lying in your cart and you have not done it. So they try to identify these customers. Then you can send marketing campaigns to customers who are most likely to buy so that you increase your increase the prospect of making more sales. And then finally, I already told you in the area of risk management, insurance sectors make use of these predictive analytics. They don't want to lose out on claims. They want to have good fat insurance premiums rather than losing out on claims. So they can use predictive analytics to see where they could suffer a loss or where they could make a profit by going in for high premiums. The next type of data analytics is prescriptive analytics. So this type of analytics prescribes a solution to a particular problem, and it works both with descriptive as well as predictive analytics. So it combines both. You do what is the solution. So descriptive is what, and here prescriptive looks at what is the solution, right? So it combines both, and many times, most of the times, it relies on AI and machine learning. So prescriptive analytics, rather than just trying to find out, it tries to give a solution also to a particular problem. For example, a good example of this would be the airline sector, where you know that these flight charges, they continually vary, and they depend on a variety of factors like the destination to which you're traveling, the season, the holiday season. These are some internal factors. External factors like the oil price also affects the pricing. So what here prescriptive analytics is usually used to maximize an airline's profit. An airline cannot fix its own airfares. So it does this built on an algorithm that automatically adjusts the flight fares based on various factors like customer demand, the weather, the destination, the season, etc., while benchmarking itself against its competitors. So they can be sure that they're not too high and they don't lose out on customers. At the same time, they should not be too low on the prices and suffer losses. So here prescriptive analytics is widely used. So in a nutshell, why did it happen? What is happening? What is likely to happen? And what you should do about it are the questions which exist behind these broad types of analytics. Now, some of the application domains of big data analytics is the e-commerce. So again, I told you an e-commerce website or an e-commerce store uses analytics for a variety of reasons. For customer retention, then for increasing their sales, and for a huge, for introducing new products. In several of these areas, data analytics is being used. Marketing, again, targeted marketing, coming out with personalized recommendations. All these use data analytics on the marketing side. The field of education, data analytics is used to decide on what type of courses would be in demand, what type of courses can be introduced in order to get desired results or outcomes, and so on. So in the case of healthcare, again, a lot of analytics is being used so that patients and data can be analyzed to see what issues can crop up in the future. A hospital can use data analytics to see what will be the a need for admissions in a particular season. So we all are looking at examples now, hospitals being filled to the brim in the present COVID scenario, lot of analytics to predict what will be the requirements, right? So these are all areas where healthcare uses data analytics. And in the area of media and entertainment, Netflix is probably the best example, which makes wide use of data analytics. Now, Netflix is one company which started as a basic DVD rental company, but today it's considered more as a data-driven company. They use all the data that is generated by the customers in order to give their best and in turn reap profits. So Netflix is one of the few famous companies or organizations which is capitalizing largely on data analytics, coming out with recommendations, coming out with best practices for retaining their customers, etc. Other areas are the banking. Again, in the case of banking, preventing fraudulent practices is one area. And in the case of telecommunications, again, customer retention, etc. A few areas where data analytics is being applied. So now coming to the tools which are available, there are a wide variety of tools and technologies to support data analytics. And of these, Hadoop is one of the most popularly used infrastructure for big data analytics. It's open source, and using both distributed and parallel processing, it's a very widely used technology to support big data analytics. So some of the other softwares being used are MongoDB and Spark, Cassandra, Kafka, and Storm. Each has their own advantages and disadvantages. Some are used for real-time processing. Some are used for some are more suitable for stream processing, etc. And some organizations use a combination of these tools in order to aid them in their analytic applications. So this was just about big data analytics and the types of data analytics. And as I told you, we'll just be having a peep into the social analytics, social network analytics, or social media analytics, you could call it anyway, because this is something which is again coming up in a big way, and organizations, businesses are making their presence felt a lot through the social media. So this social media analytics is nothing but the art and science of extracting valuable hidden insights from vast amounts of semi-structured data and unstructured data, so that again you're able to make informed and insightful decisions. So this, why it's needed is because monitoring online behavior of people is very important to gain insight into their behavior, to see how they react to particular products or to particular services, etc. So it is the synthesis of the behavioral data. And this is available through browsing, online shopping, through various social media sites, etc. So if you look at this phases of the social media analysis, these are the broad phases. And it again begins with data identification. So again here, data identification is very important. What sort of data you need from the social media in order to drive you towards your goal, right? So this data identification involves several things like the data. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. There was some confusion. Yeah, so it starts with data identification, and this data identification involves looking at what is the format of data, whether it's the form of audio, video, what is the structure, from which region it comes, the language that you need to identify. These days we have a lot of data in all the regional languages too. So what language the data that you need is to be and from where it is, which geographical location, etc. For example, suppose I'm trying to look at the sentiments of people based on a particular event that occurred in, say, South Africa, then the region of interest becomes South Africa. I need data from those geographical regions. So it's very important to identify what your data is. And then you analyze the data. Again, analysis is where you building a model, trying to see whether it works correctly, seeing what insight you can get, and so on. And then the final phase is your interpretation. What do you interpret from this data? So if you're analyzing the sentiments of people, if a particular company has introduced a new product and it's trying to see what is the general reaction of the public to this introduction, then they need to see how many people are positive about it, what is the comments that they are given, etc. So you need to interpret this as positive, negative, neutral, or whatever it is, and then take action based on that. So these are the broad phases which are involved in any social media analysis. So I've just given the flowchart for the analysis
Madam,
process.
your voice is slow.
You want me to be fast? Okay.
No, ma'am, it's clear. It's clear.
Yeah, like somebody told, I'm a little slow.
No, ma'am,
I-
your voice is low. Low.
Okay.
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 It's clear,
Is it
ma'am.
clear? Yeah. So now this is a flowchart which just gives you the process of data analysis. So once you answer the question, once you know what the question is, you try to locate the data sources, okay? And you need enough data. So until you get enough data, you keep going through this. Use various keywords, crawl through the sources of data and create a data model. Then run your analytics. Whatever type of, if it's an opinion mining which you want to do, you run the required algorithm based on the tool. There are various tools available. You interpret and then you develop the insight. So this is a basic process which goes on in any analytics involved with social media data. And then apart from the analysis, you also need to monitor. There are certain metrics which monitor the progress of whatever you want to analyze. So for this, we have a compass which tries to tell you whether you're going in the right direction. So if you're given something, if you're trying to advertise something in the social media, any social media, these are some of the aspects or metrics through which you can gauge your progress. For example, so now this is on the user side. People who want to make use of social media, they have to gauge or analyze themselves based on these metrics. So the first one is audience profile. So audience profile is the type of audience that you have to whom you are targeting. So if suppose you're trying to market a product, and if this product is for the senior citizens, then whom will you target there? So you need a specific age group. So this audience profile, selecting the right audience profile is very important for whatever objective you have in mind. And again, the audience size is also important. How can you grow? How can you extend this audience size? That is also very important. So what do you target so that this audience size continuously expands? Only if with more audience, you can get referrals to your website or product or whatever it is. And again, in the same thing, you have something called reach and engagement. These are again two metrics. So if your audience is not able to do anything which promotes your product or service, then it's of no use. So this reach actually measures how much your audience is able to, what sort of leads your audience is able to give to your website or your product. So here we have three types of audience. You have lurkers, you have influencers, and you have engagers. So the lurkers are those people who do not do anything. They just look at your content, but they don't react, they do not share it or like it or do anything. So these are the lurkers. And then again, you have the influencers. So if an influencer is a person who likes yours or endorses your product, and by doing so, he's able to share it or he's able to extend your audience further. Because he's an influencer, he may have many other contacts. He may have many other followers. So he tries to influence the product by spreading by sharing it with many other people. And the third category are the engagers. These are the engagers are the real action-oriented ones who convert whatever they do into leads. Okay, so your audience profile and size are influenced by the reach and engagement. Next is the traffic. Now this refers to the amount of traffic that is being diverted into your website through various social media, right? So if all this audience are able to convert the leads into traffic into your website, then it means that you're having your prospects are very good, right? And if there is not enough traffic, then you need to analyze your content. For example, content analysis will involve to see what are the pages which are not having enough content to engage the users, or which need to be replaced. Something might have gone out of date, you may need to replace it, and so on. You may have to make your content compatible with a huge variety of devices, mobiles, tablets, etc. So all that comes under content analysis. Next is the sentiment analysis. So this refers to the way the people react to your product. Analyzing the various customers, how positive they are or how negative they are. So this is the next part of it. And then the community responsiveness. So how you respond to the community, how quickly you are to respond to their feedback, etc. So this is on your side. And again, coming to this competitive benchmarking, you need to continually improve by looking at your competitors. You learn from your competitors. So you continually benchmark with them. So all these are necessary if you want to make your social media presence meaningful and if you want it to lead to conversions to your website. Next is, so I'm on social media analytics. I'm just giving you a very a bird's eye view of what is really the different aspects which you need to look into. Now coming to the analytics of the data, we have various tools on the social media or web analytics front. One of the most popularly used analytic tools is the Google Analytics. You also have AWStats, which is basically a website statistics provider, but Google Analytics is one tool which is being widely used. So actually, what does this Google Analytics do? It is a powerful tool to measure how successful you are, the success of your website. And because it is important, when you have a website, when you're trying to promote something on using a website, you need to track and measure various aspects. Okay, so this is done using using various measures like visitors, the traffic sources, and a lot of other things. And Google Analytics helps you provide analysis based on these 4 categories. I've just listed a few here: the audience analysis, acquisition analysis, behavior analysis, and conversion analysis. It's a very huge topic. I'm just going into the very main points here. So looking at audience analysis, it is just an overview of the people who visit your site along with their session history, the page views, etc. So what you can do is you can try and understand your audience profile through these audience analysis. You can see how interested they are by looking at their session history, etc. And you can also make an analysis of the customers who keep returning to your website. So there are numerous applications. There are numerous ways in which you can make use of this. Only your imagination is the limit. So under audience analysis, the Google Analytics package library will allow you to examine the age and gender of your audience under the demographics. There is a special widget, demographics, where you can examine the age and gender of your audience. The affinity, reach, and the market segmentation can be examined under interests. Language and location under geo. And you can see under the behavior of the audience, who are the ones who are frequently returning to your websites, who are the ones who are converting each visit into a complete transaction, etc. Under technology, you can see the browsers which people are using, the operating systems, etc. And under mobile, you'll be able to see the various mobile devices which people use to log into your website. So this Google Analytics is very important for e-commerce websites, for all the websites where you want to improve through various using various metrics. Next is the acquisition analysis. So this acquisition means to acquire. So you want to see from where your web traffic originates. So you can actually use this knowledge in order to see or identify the networks where you get maximum users, and you can concentrate on those social media networks. So you can also measure the impact of the social media on your website. So when you have certain reference to your website, you may wish to see from where it has come. Maybe it has come by people who directly type your address into the browser and they have landed on your website, or your website could have been referred by some other website, or it could be due to an endorsement which you made on a social media site or something like that. So you try to see from where all you acquired these traffic. And the next aspect is behavior analysis. Your customers are the most important part. So you need to see or monitor their activities. So what happens is here there are a lot of things. Under behavior analysis, it could throw valuable insight into your site content. What has been the landing page, exit page? If a customer lands at a landing page at the home page and then goes through to the last page and exits after making a purchase or something, then it means your content is good. It's an indication that your content is good. So, okay. Second thing is the site speed. This is to analyze what is your page load time, whether there's a lag, the execution speed, performance data, because this is also important. If you want to retain your customers, this is also important. How much time a customer spends on the particular page, etc. Site search is mainly used to analyze how users search across your site. Do they tend to skip certain links? Do they explore all the links listed on your site? And so on, right? And the events which to be analyzed are the downloads. They would have signed up for some newsletters, etc. Or do they go back, search for something else, and then come back to your website? So these are all some of the events that need to be monitored in order to get a good understanding of the behavior of your users or the customers. So all this is possible using Google Analytics. And the last one is conversion analysis, where you try to see how many visitors have completed a transaction once they come into your website. So broadly speaking, in Google Analytics allows you to define goals. For a web profile, you will be able to define certain goals and then track your progress towards completion of that goal. So broadly speaking, why do we use goals? It is like having a destination. When you start out somewhere, you don't blindly start out. You say you want to reach this place, right? So that is what goals do. Goals provide the why of collecting the user data. And before you go to goals, any organization will have an objective. There will be a big picture of what the organization wants. If it's an e-commerce website dealing with pharmaceutical medicines, like say NetMeds, the objective may be to increase the profit. That's the big picture. So in response to that, you may set certain goals. One goal may be to increase the sales by 20%. So now for that goal, to increase your sales by 20%, what are the specific actions that need to be taken? So the specifics looks at that. What all you need to do to increase your sales. So using analytics, you can set goals, you can define, activate goals, etc. and define the path that has to be taken. And that can be analyzed to see if your goal has reached completion, whether your goal has been converted. So when you set goals, these are some of the attributes. The acronym SMART stands for specific. Your goal has to be direct, detailed, and meaningful. It should be specific. It should be measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And then we come to another important aspect of the Google Analytics. The Google Analytics allows you to customize your dashboards. So what is this dashboard? You can collect several widgets or metrics and define a canvas for specific people. For example, you can target your analysis at optimizing the market, at content optimization, or e-commerce analysis. For each, you could you could you can have a dashboard configured for each of these. So if you're an executive, say if you're an executive of a large MNC, he may not wish to go into the specifics of the marketing or sales. He may just like an overall picture. So for this, you can use an executive dashboard. So here's a snapshot of an executive dashboard, which just looks at the sessions. So here you have the sessions of top 5 countries. What are the total sessions and what is the bounce rate? So a top executive may be worried about this bounce rate. Why is it so high for a specific country? So what is this bounce rate? A bounce is nothing but, say, when a visitor comes at a landing page and leaves your website from there itself without going to the exit page, it is called as a bounce rate. It's called as a bounce, okay? So you calculate the bounce rate, and if the bounce rate is too high, you may need to explore what needs to be done in order to minimize this. It's a good indicator or metric to see where you can improve. So here again, you can look at various other aspects. So what is the sessions and bounce rate channel wise? I told you about organic search, direct search, the different types of from where your traffic comes in, right? So you can analyze the bounce rate based on from where your traffic comes in also. So if he wants to go into the specifics, he may wish to drill down further and see again who are the users, and he can select the type of metric here, hourly, day, week, month, etc. And again, he can see who are the visitors, who are the new visitors and who are the returning visitors. So here if you see, the number of returning visitors is very few. So what do you do here to make your visitors come back? Right? So you need to explore or drill deeper to see what is the reason why your customers aren't returning back to your website. Similarly, you can see from where your users are, from which part of the globe they are, and what is the type of device they use. Now, this may be of interest not only to an executive, but maybe also to the webmaster. He may wish to optimize his web content based on the type of devices which people use maximum, right? Here, the desktop users are more, so that's okay. But sometimes you may feel that the mobile users, there's a larger bounce rate. That means maybe your content has to be optimized for mobile viewing. So there are a lot of insights which you can gain through these. So again, this is an overview of what type of traffic comes into your website, whether it's direct, organic search, referral from social media or any other aspect. So again, there's another dashboard where you try to see the percentage of users coming in from various channels. Again here, direct is the most. Organic search is by when people directly type your website name into a search engine and come. Referral is this, a percentage, and the smallest is through social media. So maybe this indicates that your presence on social media needs to be highlighted. So like this, you can use various analytic dashboards in order to gain insights, and you can configure your dashboards according to your requirements. So this is again an executive dashboard which looks at the sessions device wise, and here on the right side you have the percentage of traffic coming in from various social media sites. So again, here Facebook has the largest percentage, and maybe you can use, it needs to be inferred that the other social media sites need to be utilized more in order to get more traffic from them. Okay. So these are the number of unique visitors. So what is this unique visitors? How does Google Analytics decide who is a unique visitor? Every time a visitor comes in, Google Analytics actually inserts a cookie into the visitor's website, web browser. And so whenever a visitor comes, it examines. If the cookie is present, then he is a returning visitor. Otherwise, it's counted as a new visitor. And this is again an important thing. It helps you see what is your goal conversion rate. So you may have set up goals, and this Google Analytics lets you measure how your progress towards these goals. Now this is a 100% goal conversion rate, but even a percentage of 125 or 500 is not considered very good. It's considered only as underperforming as far as Google Analytics is there. So what you do is this dashboard here, this particular widget lets you measure how you're progressing towards achieving your goals and how many goals are getting converted into transactions. So here, this particular snapshot actually allows you to look at the total sessions, maybe for a particular month, and there it allows you to drill down further to look at the unique visitors who have come in from specific channels, right? So this shows the different channels, and in each you're able to even go down and see who are the unique visitors who keep coming in. So this can be used by a marketing optimization executive to see if he can do some sort of a targeted marketing also. And then finally here, this is a dashboard which shows you the different devices used, the mobile device information, different types of mobile devices used, and the bounce rate for each. So you can try and analyze why the bounce rate is high for certain types of devices. Again, you could try and see whether your content needs to be optimized or something like that. So in a nutshell, these are some of the things which I've listed. Using Google Analytics, you can see the most important data. You can find out which online campaigns bring the most traffic. See where your visitors are located, the best visitors are located. The last snapshot was about that. See what people are searching on for your site. Uncover your top content. See what pages are performing worst. Why people are not looking at some of your pages, and see whether that can be improved. And determine where people abandon the shopping cart. Why do they abandon the shopping cart without completing a transaction, etc. So these are just a few, and the list is endless. It is just limited by imagination to see how you could use Google Analytics in your websites. And coming to the last slide, I would just like to end with a quote of the co-founder of Netflix. And everyone with a phone has a screen and access to the internet. That is our addressable market. The world's taste and the world's time is what we are after. So it is this data which has just charted the success story of several companies like Netflix. And as professionals, we need to see how we make use, to see where we fit in. As computer science professionals, maybe we should see where we can contribute. On the research side, there are plenty of avenues to see what sort of algorithms can be used to improve the analytics. You have to go deeper into machine learning and things like that to see where you can contribute as a researcher. As a data analyst, you may have to be proficient with the various tools and techniques and see what insights you can gain through using various analytical tools. And as an entrepreneur or as a startup person, you may wish to see what you can do to improve your business using things like Google Analytics, using your social media presence to the fullest, and so on. So this talk here is just an eye opener. It is just a tip of the iceberg, and there's an ocean. We have touched three fields: big data, data analytics, data science, and it's an ocean actually. And you need to explore and see the immense possibilities available in this domain. So with these few explanations that are given today, I would like to stop here and be open for any questions.
Now, participants, you can ask the questions now. If you have anything, means you can unmute your mic and you can ask. please share your material and contact details with us. In chat box, can you share your contact details? Ma'am, is it audible? Kalpana,
Yeah, it's audible.
is it audible? Can you
Yeah,
share your material and contact detail with us?
Yeah. I just need to convert it to PDF. I'll send it by mail.
Okay. Can you share your contact details within feedback link? Feedback.
Sure.
Can you share your contact details
Yeah.
in this chat box?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, madam. Let us wind up this question answer section. Once again, we thank you, ma'am, for your informative sections on behalf of your Kshetra College as well as Department of for this 5-day national webinar. If anybody interested to share means can you unmute your mic and come. Participants, if you are willing to share some feedback means you can unmute your mic and come.
In the question.
Thank you. Kalpana ma'am, is it audible
Yes.
for you?
Yeah. Go on.
Nagarajan has one doubt.
Yes.
What are the challenges in the security and privacy aspects when we handle some social media analytics? What are the
Yes.
challenges in the security and privacy aspects when we handle social media analytics?
See, the analytics part you may not bother about the security. Is that audible? I don't understand what you mean by security. If the data is available for public, when you put some data, it can either be private or it can be available for public use. So if it's available for public use, there is no question of any security breach while using it. But as a user of social media, you need to be careful of the security mechanisms which each social media takes into account. For example, Facebook. The Facebook has to look at the aspects of data security, etc. They have their own terms, permissions to use, etc. Right? So that depends on each social media site. Anything.
Okay, ma'am. This is what I'm expecting, madam. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Kalpana ma'am, you can stop the presentation now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you all for your patient listening.
Ma'am, wait, ma'am.
Yeah.
Participants, if you have any, would like to share any feedback means you can share now. Just unmute your mic and share now. Okay, based on our yesterday's request, some of the participants has been shared their video. We will move to that videos.
Okay, is that over? Can I leave now?
Stay with us for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm having some problem with my laptop. That's the problem.
Okay. Ma'am, can you stop the sharing? Your
Yeah. 1 minute. There is some problem with the touch, so it's
It's okay, ma'am.
yeah. So the PPT has been closed, isn't it?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Some. Yeah, it's getting mirrored actually. I don't. 1 minute. Shall I leave the call otherwise?
You can leave the call, but we are asking again to join, please, ma'am. Yes, it's okay now. It's okay now, ma'am. It's okay now. Hello, Kalpana, ma'am.
Now we will see some feedback of some of our participants based on our yesterday's request.
Hello everyone, I'm Harsha. I attended this 5-day webinar on creative adaptations with latest IT trends, and I really enjoyed all the sessions with different topics. It was really interesting. I enjoyed learning. Thank you so much for all the guests who put a lot of efforts to share their knowledge with us. Big thanks to all the faculties of Computer Science Yuva Kshetra for organizing this webinar in spite of all the limitations. And thank you so much for choosing this topic because I think in our industry it's really important to be updated with the latest trends. And I really enjoyed all the 5 days of this webinar. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Parvati Krishna, guest lecturer in Mrs. College at Tupalam. First of all, let me thank Yuva Kshetra College and Department of Computer Science for conducting 5-day national webinar on creative adaptation with latest IT trends. Every sessions were informative and the whole program was properly organized despite some technical issues which cannot be controlled by anyone. Sessions were informative and I congratulate each and everyone who are behind this particular event. I would like to wish all the best for the coming events as well. Thank you.
Good evening to all. I am Siji George, Research Scholar from CMS College, Coimbatore. I am really happy to give feedback about the 5 days national webinar conducted by Yuva Kshetra College. My research is mainly concentrating on big data. So the last session that is conducted by Kalpana Ma from Abhinashilinga University was very informative for me. So I appreciate the CS department of Yuva Kshetra College and the entire department for conducting a wonderful and informative session for us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to thank the Department of Computer Science of Yuva Kshetra College of Management Studies for organizing a 5-day webinar series on creative adaptation on latest IT trends. The webinar was well organized. Every day the schedules were sticked upon, and of course regarding the resource persons, all the sessions were very informative, were very useful, and the way it was delivered was easily adapted. We could understand, all the participants could very easily understand the concepts. So I once again thank the whole team, the authorities and the college and the department for this webinar series. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your valuable comments. It is very useful for improving our future programs. Once again, I thank each and everyone on behalf of Yuva Kshetra College and Department of Computer Science. Now is the time for an end. Let me invite Program Coordinator, Ms. Raji N., Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, to deliver the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Good afternoon all. Respected Director of Yuva Kshetra, Reverend Dr. Matthew George Warel, Principal Dr. Tommy Anthony, Vice Principal Reverend Dr. Lalu Ulikel, today's resource person, Professor B. Kalpana, Advisor Dr. K. V. Kumar, Zonal Committee members Dr. A. Vengadeshan, Dr. A. Kanagaraj, HOD Ms. Meena Jose Kundan, resource scholars, faculties and students. I deem it as a great honor to thank all on behalf of Department of Computer Science First of all, extended my most sincere thanks to the Almighty God for making the 5-day webinar on creative adaptation with latest IT trends a resounding success. First and foremost, I thank our resource person, Professor P. Kalpana, for the interesting and highly informative speech. Thank you, ma'am. I extended my sincere thanks to advisor, Dr. K. Veerakumar, HOD, Business Administration, NGM College, Pollachi, for giving us support and cooperation in organizing this webinar. Thank you, sir. Next, I heartily thanks to Zonal Committee members, Dr. A. Venkadeshan, Professor of Computer Science, Sanjeevani College of Engineering, Maharashtra, and Dr. A. Kanagaraj, Assistant Professor of Computer Science, NGM College, Pollachi, for helping in making necessary arrangements for the webinar. Thank you, sir. Then I would like to specifically thank all the previous resource persons in the 4 days. Dr. Jodhimani K., Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, KVG College, Karnataka. Dr. G. Rega, Associate Professor in Computer Science, KL University, Hyderabad. Dr. P. Sendil Kumar, Professor of Mechanical Engineering, DVR Institute of Technology, Telangana. Dr. Devrat, Associate Professor of Electrical and Engineering, HMR Institute of Technology, Delhi. Thank you all for your informative sessions. I mentioned my deep sense of gratitude to Yuvakshetra College Management, Director, Reverend Dr. Matthew George Wadil, Principal Dr. Tommy Anthony, Vice Principal Reverend Dr. Lalu Olikal for the encouragement and guidance provided. I would like to thank our beloved HOD, Ms. Veena Jose Kumban, for the moral support and guidance provided from the start to the end of the webinar. Thank you, ma'am. As no program can be successful with a single person, an event like this cannot happen overnight. We have been fortunate enough to be packed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues. Thank you all. I also extend sincere thanks to well-wishers and technical team for their support. I do thank all the participants, those who shared their feedback with us. Last but not least, I thank all the participants who made this webinar successful. Once again, I am thanking you, each and everyone, on behalf of Department of Computer Science and Yuvakshetra College. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Raji ma'am. Kalpana ma'am, once again, thank you very much for your for spending your valuable time with us. Kalpana ma'am.
Technical hitches. Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I too would like to appreciate and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for spending your valuable time.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the technical hitches were a little disappointing. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Participants, feedback link will be provided in the chat box. You can fill it with that particular link. We are expecting your kind cooperation in our future programs also, future webinars also. Okay. Thank you very much once again, dear participants. Please fill the feedback form in the chat box. We are providing the link in the chat box. Please fill the form and then you can leave. Thank you all once again for your kind cooperation for last 5 days. Thank you very much.
your skin, you can see it beat, intoxicating your energy. First time in so long you felt the heat, evaporating your bindings. Move like the sunlight, darkness can't hold you here. Bold and bright, push through the atmosphere. This is your dawn, this is your break. Move like the sunlight, darkness can't hold you here. Bold and bright, push through the atmosphere. This is your dawn, this is your break. Move like the I know the sadness that cripples you. It comes in waves and out of the blue. But there are days you feel free